Hey, if you want to be known to New York, stay here. If you want to be known to the world, go to California.
On October 30th, 1945, Henry Winkler was born in Manhattan, which is located in the city of New York. Both of his parents, Ilse and Harry Winkler, were people of German Jewish descent who had fled Nazi Germany only a few years before to his birth. Upper West Side, Manhattan was the location where they made their home. Due to the fact that Henry's father achieved success in the lumber business, the family was able to maintain their financial stability. But the living at home was challenging. His parents were stern and frequently harsh because of the difficulties they had while living in Germany. In German, they even referred to Henry as a dumb dog, which was a moniker that caused him a great deal of pain and remained with him for many years. It was a challenging period for Henry at school. Reading and writing were difficult for him, but at the time, no one was aware of the condition known as dyslexia. His parents and teachers believed that he was either unmotivated or simply not making an effort to succeed. The result was that he felt helpless and frustrated. However, a remarkable event took place when he was 13 years old. After seeing the film West Side Story, he felt a spark of inspiration ignite within him. In the process of falling in love with acting, he began to fantasize about living a new type of life. Another significant event was his bar mitzvah, which took place when he was 13 years old. In spite of the fact that reading Hebrew was extremely challenging for him, he was able to memorize everything and perform exceptionally well. He was experiencing feelings of pride for the very first time. Despite the fact that school continued to be challenging, this helped him feel a little bit more confident. When he was a teenager, he found solace in the words and music of Bob Dylan and the Beatles. In addition to this, he became passionate in photography, which provided him with a means of self-expression and a creative outlet. At the age of 18, Henry made a courageous decision in the year 1963. His parents did not encourage him to pursue a career in acting, but he was determined to do so. The application he submitted to Emerson College in Boston was successful. Moving out from New York provided him with a complete new beginning. Because of his difficulties with reading, college continued to be challenging for him, but he persevered through it. As a result of the encouragement he received from his theater instructors, he experienced a sense of belonging for the very first time. Following his graduation in 1967, Henry made the decision to continue his education. One of the most prestigious acting institutions in the world, Yale School of Drama, received his application. Although the application process was challenging, he was able to attract their attention with his charisma and talent. After receiving acceptance, he began his studies at the institution later that year. This was a whole new task for me. He had dyslexia, which made it difficult for him to learn scripts and read difficult plays, but acting was an exhilarating experience for him. Henry needed to come up with inventive techniques to commit lines to memory. In order to prevail, he exerted an extraordinary amount of effort and relied on his innate abilities. After participating in major shows such as Peer Gynt and A Midsummer Night's Dream, he was prepared to take on the world by the time he graduated in 1970. He was ready to take on everyone. Life after Yale, however, was not a simple one. Henry relocated to New York, where he did not have much success in securing acting employment. He accepted anything he could get his hands on, including ads. Because he featured in 42 different advertisements over the course of 1 year, he was able to pay his bills and build confidence. Additionally, he appeared in a number of smaller theater productions, one of which was a role in the Broadway production of 40 Carats, which brought him fame. Henry managed to secure a small role in the film The Lords of Flatbush, which was released in 1973. Although it was a low-budget picture, it was the first time he had the opportunity to experience working on a movie set. Additionally, he made appearances on a couple television episodes in supporting roles around the same time. He gained exactly the right amount of momentum to attract the attention of casting agencies in Hollywood. As a result of these life experiences, Henry received a phone call later that year informing him about a new television show called Happy Days. A family in Milwaukee was the primary center of the story, which took place in the 1950s. In the beginning, he tried out for a smaller role, but the producers asked him to try out for a character called Arthur the Fonzarelli instead. For Henry, that incident was the turning point in his life. When the first episode of Happy Days aired on January 15, 1974, the character of Fonzie, who was portrayed by Henry Winkler, was not expected to be a major deal. The character of Arthur Fonzarelli was merely intended to be a rough-and-tumble local resident in order to provide a counterpoint to Richie Cunningham, the show's main character, who appears to have a pleasant disposition. In the first season, Fonzie made a very brief appearance, appearing in only 16 of the 24 episodes and frequently for only a few seconds at a time. It was claimed that he had dropped out of high school and that his father had abandoned him when he was 3 years old. His grandmother was the one who went on to raise him. Because of this, he had a hard edge, but he was never intended to be the center of attention. As a candidate for the part, Henry Winkler was not the first choice. There was an original consideration among the producers to cast Mickey Dolenz from the Monkees. However, when Winkler auditioned, he astonished everyone by improvising a sequence that is now famously known as the mirror scene. Winkler was 28 years old at the time, inexperienced and eager to demonstrate his worth. He was cast in the role, and he immediately began bringing something unique and unexpected to the character when he began playing it. Initially, the sitcom maintained Fonzie's reputation as a strong guy. However, there were a few instances that hinted at his more sensitive side. Are you able to guess who is going to be coming to Christmas? As a result of his feelings of isolation, Fonzie decided to spend the holidays with the Cunningham family. As a result of the audience's appreciation for this combination of hardness and vulnerability, the show began to employ his character in a different way. In the beginning, not everyone at ABC was a fan of Fonzie. Executives were concerned that his reputation as a greaser could give the impression that he was a negative influence. They went so far as to instruct him not to wear a leather jacket unless he was in close proximity to his motorcycle. As a result of this limitation, Fonzie frequently donned a green windbreaker that was obviously not in keeping with his personal style. In order to circumvent the restriction, the writers made it a point to include Fonzie's motorcycle in as many scenes as they could, even if it was completely random and made no sense. As time went on, Fonzie's popularity increased to the point where ABC began to soften the rules. By the time the second season rolled around, the leather jacket had become an integral part of his wardrobe. As Fonzie's popularity increased, he immediately began to take control of the show. His catchphrases such as "I" and "sit on it" eventually became commonplace in contemporary conversation. He could fix anything with a simple tap, such as hitting a jukebox to make it play, and people enjoyed the fact that he could do that. People of all ages considered him to be delightful, and children looked up to him. Fonzie was no longer merely a supporting character by the time the second season rolled around. A celebrity he was. The popularity of Fonzie extended beyond the program. His image appeared on a variety of items, including lunchboxes, posters, and toys. There were millions of dollars being made from Fonzie products by the year 1976. Even in countries such as Japan, Fonzie was quite popular. In fact, a survey conducted in 1977 found that he was more well-liked than the Emperor of Japan. It was even attempted by politicians to link themselves with him in the hope of gaining the support of voters. One of the most well-known performers in the United States is Henry Winkler, who is most known for his role as Fonzie. But the results of all this attention were problematic. On set, the show began to center more and more on Fonzie, which irritated Ron Howard, who played Richie. Richie was the character that Ron Howard played. Richie's part felt less significant as Fonzie gained greater popularity, despite the fact that Howard had been the primary character. Despite the fact that he never held Winkler responsible for the situation, Howard later stated that it was irritating. There was a time when ABC considered changing the name of the show to Fonzie's Happy Days. Everyone was displeased by this concept. In a direct confrontation with the network, Winkler expressed his opinion that it would be unjust to the other members of the ensemble. The show's name was modified, and Ron Howard threatened to leave the show if it was changed. In order to show his support for the actors, the creator, Gary Marshall, refused to allow the network to implement the alteration. Winkler was given equal billing in the opening credits, which was the compromise that they ultimately agreed upon. The performers put forth a lot of effort to ensure that the play remained supportive and enjoyable despite the strain. When Winkler was awarded a Golden Globe for his performance, he made sure that the entire cast was present on stage with him. This allowed him to share the spotlight with the other actors. It was a wise choice to continue Happy Days as an ensemble show all the way through. It was one of the most well-liked sitcoms in the history of television and ran for a total of 11 seasons. When the television show Happy Days came to an end in 1984, Henry Winkler's life took a turn for the worse. His portrayal as Fonzie, the suave and self-assured guy that everyone adored, spanned 11 seasons. Because the persona was so well known, people from all around the world were able to identify. However, Winkler encountered a significant challenge as a result of his fame as Fonzie. Those in charge of casting were unable to imagine him in any other role. Due to the fact that I was the Fonz, he stated that I was unable to get work for a period of 8 or 9 years. Despite this, Winkler did not give up. He made the decision to challenge himself with the film Memories of Me, which he directed for the first time in 1988. He took a significant step forward with it, even though it did not become a tremendous hit. Aside from it, he began creating. Taking charge of initiatives allowed him to gradually establish a new phase of his professional life. He directed another film titled Cop and a Half, which starred Burt Reynolds and was released in 1993. Through the completion of these endeavors, he was able to become more than just the Fonz. The decision that Winkler made to decline the part of Danny Zuko in Grease is one that he still feels guilt over. When he was still portraying Fonzie in 1977, he was presented with the opportunity to star in the film. There was a striking resemblance between the character of Danny and Fonzie, a cool guy from the 1950s who wore a leather jacket. When asked if he would be interested in playing the same kind of part again, Winkler declined the offer. In the end, John Travolta was cast in the role, and Grease went on to become an enormously successful film. In a later joke, Winkler said, "I went home and had some orange juice." Travolta returned to his house and purchased a plane. Winkler acknowledged that Travolta was an excellent choice for the part, despite the fact that he felt guilt over the selection. When Winkler was a co-creator of the television show MacGyver, it was a significant turning point. The television program, which tells the story of a secret agent who is able to solve difficulties with commonplace items, was a big success and lasted for 7 seasons. Additionally, it ensured Winkler's financial stability. Producing provided him with a fresh opportunity to achieve success in Hollywood and assisted him in demonstrating that he was more than just an actor. After some time had passed, Winkler went back to acting and discovered an entirely new audience. In 2003, he appeared on the television sitcom Arrested Development as Barry Zuckerkorn, a lawyer who was not only bad but also hilarious. It was a completely different part from Fonzie, and people enjoyed seeing him in a different light throughout the film. Even the well-known shark jumping sequence from Happy Days was made fun of in one of the jokes shown on the broadcast. It was Winkler's ability to laugh at himself that contributed to the fact that he was so well liked by others. As a result of his role in the HBO comedy Barry, Winkler's acting career reached a new peak in 2018. He played the role of Gene Cousineau, an acting instructor who was counseling a hitman who was attempting to alter his life. This was a part that was not only humorous but also poignant and complex. Winkler was awarded his first Emmy for his performance, which he received when he was 72 years old. It was 42 years after he had received his first Emmy nomination for his work on Happy Days, demonstrating that it is never too late to achieve significant success. After discovering that he had dyslexia at the age of 31, Henry Winkler's life was forever altered. 7th of May 1977 was the date. Due to this incident, he was able to comprehend the reasons why education had always been so challenging. When Winkler and his wife Stacy took their son Jed to see a specialist, Winkler came to the realization that the truth was true. The symptoms that the doctor explained to Jed, who was having difficulty in school, were ones that Winkler thought were very similar to him. For the first time, he came to the realization that the reasons he struggled with reading and writing were not due to his laziness or his lack of intelligence. His brain simply functioned in a different way. Winkler experienced a range of feelings as a result of this finding. At the same time as he felt relieved because he finally understood what had been wrong the whole time, he also felt enraged. He recalled being misunderstood and called many names over the course of many years. "I felt both relief and wrath," he remarked. "I felt both relief and anger, since I had been handled in such an unfair manner. I was relieved that there was a term for it." His time spent in school had been challenging. In New York City, he attended McBurney School, where he received poor marks, a grade point average of 2.2, and a ranking that placed him in the bottom 3% of his class. Everyone thought he wasn't making an effort, but the reality was that nobody understood the difficulties he was having with learning. After being diagnosed with dyslexia, Winkler started talking about the condition and became a champion for early literacy testing. He was under the impression that learning would have been an entirely different experience for him if he had been diagnosed when he was a child. He went so far as to say that he might have spared himself thousands of hours of toiling away and feeling unhappy about himself, but rather than allowing it to prevent him from moving forward, Winkler discovered methods to adjust. Throughout his career as an actor, he devised inventive methods to memorize lines by listening to them spoken aloud and then repeating them to himself. Despite the fact that he had difficulty reading scripts, he was able to achieve success by using this strategy. As a result of the fact that dyslexia affects a large number of individuals, Winkler's tale demonstrates how vital it is to promote awareness. According to studies, approximately 20% of people may have dyslexia. Nevertheless, a significant number of individuals are never identified with the condition. It was then that Winkler began to tour schools and share his tale with pupils, all the while encouraging them to persevere and not give up. As of the year 2025, he had spoken more than 250,000 students on the subject of overcoming obstacles and discovering their own personal ability. The fact that Winkler is married to Stacy Weitzman is another significant aspect of his life. They had their first encounter on August 23, 1976, in a clothes boutique in Los Angeles, where Stacy was employed. The purpose of Winkler's visit was to purchase a sport coat. Nonetheless, he left with Stacy's phone number. As soon as he saw her, he was convinced that she was the one. It was 2 weeks later when they went on their first date, which consisted of going to the movies, and their connection continued to grow stronger. Stacy's previous marriage resulted in the birth of a little son named Jed, and Winkler was overjoyed to take on the role of stepfather to him. The wedding took place on May 5, 1978, and it was a tiny private ceremony with about 30 guests in attendance. After having 2 more children, they were able to expand their family. Both Zoe and Max were born on the same day, September 30, 1980, and August 18, 1983, respectively. It was not always easy for Winkler and Stacy to raise a blended family, but they worked together throughout the process. There were several obstacles that they overcame together, one of which being Jed's diagnosis of dyslexia, which ultimately led to Winkler's own realization that he had a learning handicap. As a result of not allowing it to overwhelm them, they became staunch champions for providing assistance to children who have dyslexia. A cozy and affectionate household was established by the Winklers. Family and friends were welcome to visit at any time, and their home quickly became a popular gathering spot for a large number of aspiring young actors in Hollywood. They made spending time with their family a top priority, and they established restrictions such as not working on weekends so that they could concentrate on spending time together. They began a custom of having supper together on Sundays, which is currently going strong and continues to include their grandchildren. It is extremely uncommon for a marriage to continue for more than 47 years in the entertainment industry. In spite of the fact that they have been through challenging moments together, such as Stacy's fight against breast cancer in 2001, their connection has only grown stronger. As part of the celebrations for their 45th wedding anniversary in 2023, they renewed their vows in a private ceremony that took place at their house. For many people, their love and dedication serve as a source of motivation. Additionally, Winkler's issues with dyslexia caused him to embark on an unanticipated new career path as a writer of children's books. His agent made the suggestion that he publish a book on his experiences in the year 2003. In the beginning, Winkler believed that it was not conceivable. His joke was, "I have dyslexia, how am I supposed to write a book?" However, he came to the realization that his tale could be of use to children who were similar to him. To create Hank Zipser, a character based on Winkler's life, he collaborated with Lynn Oliver, an accomplished author, and the two of them came up with the idea together. Niagara Falls, or Does It, is the title of the first book, which was released on May 14, 2003. In its first year of publication, it sold more than 150,000 copies, making it a major success. There are now 17 volumes in the series, all of which are about Hank, a youngster who has dyslexia, and his exciting experiences in school and in life. Winkler was the one who narrated the story, and Oliver was the one who wrote them down. Oliver made sure that the stories were simple, humorous, and accessible to children. The publications written by Hank Zipser have been utilized in educational institutions all around the world to assist children in comprehending dyslexia. In addition, Winkler launched a new series back in 2014 called Here's Hank, which is geared toward readers of a younger age. With the use of a unique font, these books are designed to make reading simpler for children who have learning disabilities. Winkler went to educational institutions to speak about his books and his journey, encouraging children to have faith in themselves and their abilities. On October 15, 2022, when he was 77 years old, Henry Winkler began writing his memoir, which was written under the title Being Henry, The Fonts and Beyond. When it came to telling his story, he collaborated with co-author James Kaplan. Due to the fact that Winkler was diagnosed with dyslexia at the age of 31, writing the book was a challenging endeavor for him. Because he had difficulty writing things down, he spent a significant amount of time dictating his recollections to Kaplan. For 8 months, they toiled away, frequently staying up well into the night. Over the course of 256 pages, Winkler reviewed his past, including memories of his boyhood that were sad and the difficulties he faced inside his work. He had to confront moments that he hadn't thought about in years because it was a lengthy procedure that compelled him to do so. One of the things that Winkler found to be startling was the extent to which he had forgotten about the good old days. He recalled a time during the 3rd season when the creators of the show considered changing the name of the show all the way to Fonzie's Happy Day. Since Winkler had always considered himself to be a member of the team, the knowledge came as a complete surprise to him. In addition to that, he mentioned how challenging the show was for him. At times, he put in 15 hours of work and filmed as many as 25 scenes. Because of this, he had very little time to spend with his family. Because of his employment, Winkler acknowledged that he was unable to be present for a great number of significant times in his children's lives. In addition to that, the book divulged the events that took place behind the scenes of Happy Days. In the role of Potsy, Winkler had a strained relationship with Anson Williams, who played the character. Williams made the accusation that Winkler had stolen a humorous moment from him at a live filming in the year 1978. For almost 20 years, they did not communicate with one another outside of the camera. In 1999, they eventually reconciled during a cast reunion. Additionally, Winkler's friendship with Tom Bosley, who played Howard Cunningham, was fraught with complication. It was in 1977 when Bosley made the accusation that Winkler was putting the rest of the cast in a shadow due to the popularity of Fonzie. Because of this, their relationship remained tense throughout the remainder of the show. It was also revealed by Winkler that Erin Moran, who played Joni, had a difficult time controlling her substance consumption. When he thought back to 1982, he recalled a day when she showed up to set intoxicated, which caused delays. When Scott Baio joined the cast as Chachi, Winkler experienced a sense of threat and was concerned that Baio would take the attention away from him. As a result, competition emerged between the two of them. In addition, Winkler recalled a time when he was with Donnie Most, who had played Ralph Malfi in the 1980 film. The majority of people admitted that he felt excluded since his character was not receiving sufficient attention. Following that, Winkler made efforts to secure more favorable tales for him. Personal narratives were shared by the guests who appeared on the show. On the 19th of October in 1977, Robin Williams participated in an audition for the role of Mork. When Winkler recalled the incident, he recalled how Williams's created alien language had stunned everyone in the room. There was no doubt in Winkler's mind that Williams was exceptional, and he quickly informed the producer, Gary Marshall, to cast him. Winkler became a close friend of Williams, and during a personal period when Williams was experiencing anxiety about the future of his profession, Winkler provided him with reassurance. In addition, Winkler shared his experience of meeting a frightened Harrison Ford during the early days of Ford's acting career. After Ford had achieved fame, he later sent a handwritten note to Winkler expressing his gratitude. The period that Ron Howard spent on Happy Days brought to light the fact that even success may have a negative shadow. Richie Cunningham, the show's main character, was introduced to the public on January 15, 1974, when he became a member of the cast. On the other hand, as the program gained more viewers, the character Fonzie, which was portrayed by Henry Winkler, ended up becoming a cultural phenomenon. Everything changed for Howard as a result of this. Around the middle of the 1970s, Fonzie's fame began to overshadow Howard's character, and he began to feel mistreated by the executives of the network. According to his explanation, which he provided in an interview that took place in 2021 on The Graham Norton Show, Richie was the original lead character, but the attention eventually went to Fonzie. When it came to promotions and events, Fonzie became the focus of attention, and Howard noted that the heads of studios and networks started treating him unfairly, both in terms of money and in terms of personal relationship. During the course of the play, the effects of this treatment were readily apparent. By the time the 1976-1977 season rolled around, Richie's part was being gradually diminished in favor of plots that focused on Fonzie. An illustration of this would be the episode titled Fonzie's Old Lady, which was broadcast on February 1, 1977. In this episode, Richie played a relatively minimal role, and the story was centered entirely on Fonzie. The situation became even more dire in 1978 when officials from ABC proposed changing the name of the show to Fonzie's Happy Days. Howard, who was only 24 years old at the time, was extremely offended when this notion was brought up during a meeting of the network in the month of July. He even entertained the idea of quitting the show. Despite this, Henry Winkler was adamantly opposed to the concept of changing the name, and it was ultimately abandoned. The media did not make matters simpler in any way. Howard's limited status was frequently brought up by reporters who inquired about how it felt to be treated as a second-class citizen on his own show. Because of these persistent reminders, his dissatisfaction increased. Howard, in spite of this, maintained his professionalism and proceeded to deliver outstanding performances consistently. As an illustration, his performance in the episode Richie Almost Dies, which was broadcast in 1978, received admiration for the emotional depth it possessed. Nevertheless, the stress of having the perception that he was undervalued compelled him to consider quitting. After the conclusion of the 1979-1980 season, he made the decision to step down from his role as a regular cast member on Happy Days. On May 6, 1980, his final program, which was titled Passages Part 2, was shown. Howard's life took a significant shift as a result of this decision. Although it was difficult for him to leave the show, it gave him the opportunity to follow his dream of becoming a director. Although he had already begun his career as a director with Grand Theft Auto in 1977, he was now in a position to concentrate entirely on developing a new career. Henry Winkler was one of the numerous people who were taken aback by Howard's departure. Because of the deep friendship that had developed between them while they were working together, Winkler found it difficult to accept the news that Howard was departing. He personally called Winkler the day before the final edition of Howard's show was broadcast in order to break the news to him. Following the event, Winkler stated in an interview that he was taken aback, but that he understood Howard's reasoning. After Happy Days, they continued to be friends with each other. The year was 1982 and Howard was the director of Night Shift. Winkler came to the set to show his support for Howard. Winkler has frequently lauded Howard in interviews over the course of his career, stating that his success as a director should not come as a surprise to anyone who had collaborated with him. A memorable encounter occurred between Henry Winkler and Ron Howard at the Emmy Awards in the year 2024. It was the first time that their show, Happy Day, had been broadcast on television. They replicated the famous set of Arnold's Drive-In from the show, which was staged in Los Angeles, where the event was held. All of the elements appeared to be the same as they were in the past, including the red booths, a jukebox, and sports pennants. The audience went absolutely wild when Winkler, who is now 78 years old, and Howard, who is 70 years old, walked out onto the stage. Seeing old friends get back together after a long separation was like a dream come true. "It is wonderful," Howard stated, and Winkler responded by saying that it is just like being at home. Additionally, there was a humorous moment. At the time that they appeared on stage, the Happy Days theme tune was not playing. Howard made a joke about how other shows had their theme music, and Winkler, who was acting out the role of Fonzie, pretended to play the jukebox. The music began playing as soon as he did, and the audience responded by giving them a standing ovation for the performance. It was the ideal combination of both humor and sentimentality. The evening was about more than simply recollections. In his speech, Winkler discussed Howard's recent achievements. For his documentary about Jim Henson, the man who created Sesame Street, which was produced by Disney+, Howard had been awarded an Emmy. At the beginning of that week, the documentary had already been honored with a number of other accolades. The fact that Winkler referred to Howard as his very good friend over the past half-century demonstrated how proud he was of him. A great deal of work was put in to ensure that this reunion was memorable. It was important for Winkler and Howard to meticulously prepare their lines and timing. Both Fonzie and Richie were dressed in outfits that were a perfect complement for their roles. Even a motorcycle that was similar to the one that Fonzie used to ride was discovered by the production team. Because it was obvious that they wanted everything to feel precisely right, their efforts were successful. The reunion had a significant effect on the situation. Fans tweeted about it on various social media platforms, and Happy Days quickly became a trending topic all around the world. As a result of the large number of people who returned to watch the older episodes, streaming services witnessed a significant boost in viewership. There were even suggestions that the sitcom might be remade, with Winkler and Howard serving as producers in the new version of the show. Not only did they act together, but their connection went beyond that. Thunderbolt chemistry was what Winkler referred to as the relationship between him and Howard. The moment they came face to face on the set of Happy Days in 1974, they were instantly a good match. Although Winkler was 27 years old and Howard was only 18 years old, they instantly became close. Winkler related a story of how they were able to record and practice a scene that was 3 pages long in just 20 minutes with ease. It wasn't only a matter of expertise, it seemed as though they had a flawless understanding of one another. The third season of the show included a story that stood out to the audience. Fonzie was forced to face Richie about a personal matter during a scenario that was not light-hearted. They only needed one take to perfect the scene. It was moments like this that demonstrated how strong their bond was, he continued, explaining why the director was so impressed. Their friendship continued to this day, even after the show had come to an end. In a difficult period in which Winkler was having trouble finding new parts, Howard was there to assist him. In 1985, Howard extended an invitation to him to visit the set of his film Cocoon. This visit not only reminded Winkler of the reasons he enjoyed acting, but it also provided him with the impetus he required to experiment with a variety of roles. In addition, Winkler started serving as the godfather of Bryce Dallas Howard, who is Howard's daughter. During her most significant events, such as her first school play and subsequently her breakthrough performance in The Village, he was there to witness them. According to Bryce, Winkler was like a guide for her, as she was always encouraging her and providing her with guidance. When she got married, Winkler was there to show how much he meant to their family by walking her down the aisle alongside Ron Howard. A great number of people in Hollywood were motivated by their relationship. As a matter of fact, a university even began offering a course designed to teach students how to establish long-term creative partnerships, using their relationship as an example. When Winkler responded, "It's not just about being co-stars or even friends," he put up the truth of the situation well. Each and every day I am thankful for the connection that is unaffected by the passage of time.